As promised, here's my second Warhammer Fantasy Battle Report against the new Lizardmen, played by none other than my fellow teammate, Jonathan Lambowski-Falkowski. And his deployment is as follows. He's got 10 Skink Skirmishers to the right with 3 Pterodons behind the forest. He's got 6 Crocs. He's got 2 Ancient Sagadons with Engine of the Gods, 2 Skink Priests behind them, a Scarvet on a Carnosaur, a big block of Saurus with a Slann, and 10 Skink Skirmishers to the left. I got Knights, Demigryph Knights on the right, 2 Helblaster Volleyguns, 2 Cannons, 2 blocks of Halberds, shitty group of Archers in front, and farther to the left I got another group of Demigryph Knights, and my Steam Tank looking to get into a Saurus, with another Chaff Knight block on the very end. So I won first turn. And to the right, my Knights looked to pressure the Skinks. The Demigryph Knights wanted to get a good flank on possibly the Crocs or a Stegodon. The center of my line advances forward, even the guns move up slightly. Cannons do not move because I want to fire them. Steam Tank's looking to get in at the Saurus because really they can't fight it, and the Knights are looking to charge the other Skink Skirmishers on the other side. I failed a fireball attempt at the Skinks, and I got a Harmonic Convergence onto this cannon, so hopefully take out some dinosaurs. So after shooting, I do indeed take out the Carnosaur with a Scarvet on top, and the Skink Priest that was hiding behind him, so just a stupid lucky cannonball. I think I took off a wound or 2 from the Ancient Steg with the Engine of the Gods. So Lizardmen turn 1. John's Pterodons ride out to the far right flank to try and drop rocks on my Knights in future turns. The Skinks move through the forest, and the forest ends up being the forest of you take dangerous terrain checks. So John smartly decreases his footprint for cannons to shoot at a Stegodon by deploying them sideways. Since he's not charging anything anyway, it's a good call. Other than that, everything moves up. Crocs look to target the Demigryphs for their turns. And the Skinks on the far left also move up. His magic, he gets off Wissons onto the Crocs, so shooting at them with the Helblasters will be a little bit more difficult. So my turn 2. The Knights on the right flank charge the Skinks, who flee through the forest like they should. And the Croxagores now could potentially charge the Knights a little easier because of the position I ended up in. And the Knights on the left flank also charge Skinks, who also flee. I don't know why they don't want to just play. The Demigryphs move up, allowing enough distance between them and the Croxagores that the Croxagores are going to have to roll really well to charge them. The Archers there also get into an obnoxious redirecting position if the Saurus try and charge them. The Steam Tank moves up 2d6 inches, saving 2 steam points for the Steam Cannon later. So my magic phase, I get off a comet next to the Priest there, but I just annihilate my unit with a Dimensional Cascade. 15 of 17 halberds go down, and 1 wound goes on each of my characters. Fortunately, the wizard stays out of the hole, and only takes a couple wounds, but it pretty much ends my magic phase. And there's the wound markers on the characters. So shooting sees Stegodon off the table by cannons. That was the one with the Engine of the Gods. And I only do 1 casualty to the Croxagores with the Helblasters, unfortunately. They kind of whiffed. I think I got a couple misfires that have their shots. The Steam Tank also whiffs and misfires, taking 2 wounds, it looks like. So John's turn 2. Time to strike back. The Croxagores charge the Knights, who flee like brave Sir Robin. And they then try and redirect into the Demigryphs, but fail the charge. The Skinks to the top right rally, and the Skinks to the left rally, because Cold-Blooded is pretty good for making leadership checks, I hear. The Pterodons fly over my Knights, dropping rocks on them, and don't do anything. I pass all my saves. I think he did 5 wounds, I made them all. And rather than risk his Saurus by charging the Archers and taking a Steam Tank in the rear flank, they just move up slightly. Shooting phase sees Pterodons try and shoot the Knights. I think I passed both armor saves I was required to make. And the Ancient Stag with Blowpipes just obliterates 4 of the 5 archers, but the remaining archer passes his panic check. Empire turn 3. I try and charge with the knights to the left flank into the flank of the Saurus block, and I fail. The steam tank goes into the front. The lone archer tries to redirect the Stegodon at a good angle away from my Demigryphs, because those sharpened horns are really gonna mess me up, causing D3 wounds each. And it looks like my halberd block slightly moves up as well. Over here, my bunker moves up just to try and catch everything that could be fighting in Harmonic Convergence bubble. And over here, the Demigryph Knights reposition a little bit, just in case the Croxodors decide to charge the Demigryph Knights. I'll be in a good overrun angle for the next turn. So the Comet goes off here, killing the Skink Priest, doing 7 wounds to the Saurus, and I think I make all my saves with the Steam Tank, and killing 5 of the Skinks in the back as well, so decent Comet. 2 cannons only do a combined 3 wounds to the Stegodon, unfortunately, so that thing could potentially go on a rampage the next turn. And I get a Ice Shard Blizzard off onto the Croxodors and shoot off 3 of them, it looks like, and doing 1 wound on a final one. So here's what combat looks like. I killed not too many. I think I really whiffed my impact hits. And Alright, Lizardmen turn 3. The Croxodors charge the Helblaster, which is much smarter than charging the Demigryphs, who would probably kill them before they get to attack. And the Stegodon charges my archer, who fails his terror check, flees, gets run down, and allows the Stegodons to get into my Demigryphs anyway. So those sharpened horns are going to absolutely murder them in the next turn. The Pterodons swoop over here to do some shooting behind my lines and march blocking potentially. And these Skinks move into the forest, which turns out to be a wildwood, which attacks them, killing 3 of them, leaving 2. These Skinks move up, and in his magic phase, I think he fails to cast the Flames of the Phoenix, which is on a 19+ on my halberds. In his shooting phase, it's pretty much ineffectual. He gets a few poisons off on my knights here, but I make my saves, and he does nothing to these Demigryph Knights. I don't even know if he did a wound or not. So here, the Helblaster's taken out, and he overruns into my bunker, which is going to suck. And yeah, here's the Demigryph who got owned, and his Stegodon is now into my halberd block. And he manages to take off 2 wounds from the steam tank this turn. That's also shitty. So we're going into my next turn. The knights on the left flank get a charge into the flank of the Saurus, hopefully adding enough combat res to break them, though I doubt this will happen. The knights on the right flank charge the Skinks, who stand and shoot instead of run, and I make all my saves from stand and shoot, and I make all my dangerous terrain checks from charging into the forest with Cav. The Demigryph Knights try and charge the Saurus, but they needed a lot, and they failed. In the magic phase, I get off another Ice Shard Blizzard onto the Croxodors, so hopefully they won't be able to hit me as often with a -1 to hit. And I try and get some buffs off of the Warrior Priest, like 5-up ward, but I rolled double 1, and I failed. I shoot at the Pterodons with the Helblaster, taking out 2 wounds, so 1 of them dies, and I believe cannons try shooting at them, but don't do anything. I rolled a 1 to ruin the first one, and therefore it stops. The Knights whiff. What do I say? They end up breaking. And I killed the Croxodor. He managed to get my wizard, unfortunately, but we tied combat, which is really good for me, and we stayed there. I actually killed the Stegodon. He did a few wounds with his impact hits. I get to strike next. The Halberdiers did 2 wounds. Stegodon only had 1 wound left after the Demigryphs fought him, and Stegodon dies. The Skinks get obliterated by the Knights, and I go through the forest, losing 1 to dangerous terrain. So John's turn 4, and it's going to be John's final turn. Spoiler alert. The Pterodons move into the back of the Demigryphs and shoot, but do nothing, like usual. And in his magic phase, he again tries to cast Flames of the Phoenix on the Halberds, but fails, and that's the magic phase done. I think he had a 12 out of 12 power dice that phase too, so too bad for him. The command group here finishes off the Croxagore, and actually last turn I ended up sticking with my knights. I was -4 to my leadership check, and I rolled a 4, which 8 minus 4 is 4, so I passed. And this turn they broke because I think he killed like 3 of them. So my final turn, the Demigryphs finally make the charge into the Saurus, and we all know how that's going to go. In my magic phase, I don't have any targets for the Flame Wizard, and I just for fun do some stupid redundant powers from my Lector. So he's got a 5-up board, and he can reroll to wound this turn. Ooh, scary. I end up shooting off the remaining 2 Pterodons. I think I do it with a cannon. I think my Helblaster absolutely fails. And I forgot to mention in the previous turn, the one lone Demigryph who survived the Stegodon charge rallied and just moved out of the way. And yeah, I just went to town on these guys, and my opponent throws me his hand. So good game, Empire win. Afterthoughts about the game. It's my first game against the new Lizardmen book, and they seem to have taken a hit in the Slann department. It was much more annoying having to negate 6s for my magic, and to have an ethereal Slann in a unit, and for the Slann to be in the 2nd rank of any unit. Now I could see him getting easily sniped by characters or small chaff units charging into the front of a Saurus block with the Slann, so it kind of forces you to take the Temple Guard, just so you can't be attacked by anything trying to snipe your Slann. The Carnosaurs are really good. Unfortunately, this is a bad example because I managed to take it off with a cannon so easily the first turn, which was kind of lucky. I think my opponent should have deployed his monsters in front of the Carnosaur. By monsters, I mean the Stegodons, because on average, 1 cannon shot's not going to kill a Stegodon. If I don't kill that first Stegodon, then I can't get to his Carnosaur. So for the first couple of turns, he should have walked up his Stegodons in front and his Carnosaur behind. So I'd have to take out the Stegodons before I take out the Carnosaur. And I think this would allow his Carnosaur to get into like my steam tank, all my characters, my war machines. I think it might have been a similar result in the end, but it would have given him a better chance, and it would have been a lot more scary. In this situation, I was able to pick whatever target I wanted, and I was mostly scared of that Carnosaur, and it was a lot of points, so I went after it first. The Skink Priest being placed in the back was again, he knew his error. He said that he wasn't really thinking about cannons because I hadn't deployed them yet, but I left room for a cannon to basically be directly across the board from the Carnosaur, so unfortunately that's how it happened. I think the archer failing his terror check was really poor, and it really demonstrated how sharpened horns just obliterate multi-wound models. So I like to say obliterate a lot, don't I? Anyways, yeah, I could see the Stegodon being very powerful against ogres who are all multi-wound models, and have units of multi-wound models that are the same as each other, so they're actually just distributed to rank and file guys instead of, you know, one character taking D3 but not carrying over to the rest of the unit. I think he also another thing that was restricting his list was that he was using models that he'd owned from the previous book, so it might not be the ideal list he would take with the new book. And after talking to my opponent after the game, he said that he didn't really like high magic. High magic is kind of interesting with Lizardmen because for the lore attribute, you can switch out a spell that you don't want with any other spell. So, being a Loremaster, you know all the spells, so switch out something that you think you're not going to use. In this case, perhaps Arcane Unforging, or whatever it's called, the thing that gets rid of the magic items. I don't have a lot of magic items in my list, or ones that are worth killing for him. So why not switch that out for, say, Malkoth's Mystifying Miasma, or uh, a fireball to take my chaff down, or he had Wistons on his level 1 skinks, which is really good, by the way. But you get where I'm going. You could easily switch out for any of the signature spells, or you could potentially roll for one of the more beefy spells, like getting a Pit of Shades or something. Pit of Shades is like auto death for the Steam tank, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that people, like any book that comes out, will just have to work with it and trial and error, play some games, and really figure out what are the must-haves in the list. As far as things like things that you see often, like salamanders go, I think salamanders are still really viable. They got slightly more expensive, I believe, but I actually like them better now that they're strength 4 instead of just strength 3 -3 save, because they're just better at killing infantry now. Like the rank and file guys who you're going to be shooting anyway. Fire template hitting my block of halberds is going to kill a shitload of them. So I think that's pretty decent. I don't see why people should complain about that. Another viable thing I'm thinking for the Lizardman book that I've heard about is just taking tons of monsters, more than my cannons can deal with. And if you had about 7 or 8 monsters on the field, I don't think I could kill them all in time with the cannons. It would take some clever positioning and some redirecting to do well against that army. It would make you think a lot more. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the game, and I'll hopefully be back with more fantasy battle reports soon. There should be tournaments coming up in October. I'm potentially running one, so I might not be playing, but I'll try and make a battle report or two of various games that I think are interesting. So see you next time.